Long time ago, I did a video on self-advocacy, and it only involved one environment. So today we're going to talk about a couple of different environments, and I'm going to talk about self-advocacy in a lot more detail. So hold on to your hats, take out your notepad, and let's get to it. All right, so of course the big question is, what is self-advocacy? Now, you all could explain this probably easier, but I'm going to state the obvious. Means speaking up for yourself to get your needs met, protect your rights, and make your own choices. So that's the biggest part of self-advocacy, to make your own choices. To me, that's the most important part. So for wheelchair users and others with disabilities, self-advocacy is about understanding your needs, which is important. You got to start from that. Understanding your own needs, knowing your rights in different environments, like at the doctors, at the movie theaters, at stores, at your neighborhood, on the sidewalks, communicating effectively. So it doesn't mean lashing out. Doesn't mean, making these demands. No. It means communicating clearly, explaining your needs, and standing up for yourself in a respectful and assertive way. So we'll talk about some examples coming up. Taking responsibility. So making decisions about your own life rather than letting others speak for you. So if you have somebody speaking for you all the time, then you might want to talk to that person and see if you can come to an agreement in which you speak a little bit more. Gradually, you start speaking more and more for yourself. There are some environments in which it's hard for me to communicate because I'm also hearing impaired. And when I go to this particular clinic, it's very noisy. And other people are at the desk signing in. And I cannot hear the person behind the computer. I can't see her face either. And so if they ask for a date of birth or your last name or your full name, I have no idea what she asked. I'm sitting there smiling. So the nurse who was with me, she's standing, she's very tall. She can see the receptionist, and she gives out the information. I'm not bothered about that so much because somebody needs to answer the questions. And I cannot, because I cannot hear her, I cannot see her. So here's some examples. Asking a school or workplace for a wheelchair accessible entrance. That would be one example. Telling a doctor that their office table is too high. Now, clinics are getting a little bit better about having at least one or two tables that they can lower it enough so someone in a wheelchair can transfer over. So before your appointment, call over there and see if you can reserve the room with that particular table in mind. So speaking up when someone talks to you, your caregiver, instead of directly to you. So, sometimes you can say, hey, I'm over here. I'm down here. You can talk to me too. So that needs to happen. If you haven't done it for a long time, then you need to get into the practice of doing it. Refusing help you don't need and asking for the kind you do. So that is important because sometimes they help us where we don't want help and we don't need the help. We're capable of doing XYZ, getting spoons out, getting dishes out, what's at our level. But sometimes we need, like in my house, the cereal is way up there on the higher cabinets, so then I have to ask for help. So it's those kind of things where Lisa, what do you need? Oh, I need the cereal up there. Oh, which one? I'll get it for you. So then I can get my own plate and my own spoon, my own bowl, all that kind of stuff. I can do it on my own. Why does this matter? Why does it matter that you advocate? Builds confidence and independence. No? Yeah? Helps change environments that aren't inclusive. Encourages others with disabilities to speak up too. So it can encourage someone else to say, hey, I saw her do this, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do that too. So, and it takes practice. We're not going to do it perfectly, maybe the first time or second time. Maybe by the third time, fourth time, we're getting better. So we have to practice a little bit in the mirror. Self-advocacy versus going it alone. I would say no. Asking for support from friends or organizations. Work with groups to create change. And lean on mentors or community leaders. So all of this is important. Self-advocacy does not mean you go it alone. We can ask for organizations for help. An example. If in your neighborhood you're constantly running into obstacles on the sidewalk, you can write a letter or help you write a letter to the city and say, hey, this sidewalk on such and such street needs repair. I can't get through. And there's a store I need access to. I need to get to the pharmacy. This sidewalk is in terrible shape. Please repair it as soon as possible. So, and then you sign your name and your address and your phone number, and, the city will contact you about this. So that's an example. So you need to collaborate with the city. You can't repair the sidewalk by yourself, but you need the sidewalk repaired. So, and that's a way of advocating for yourself, but it also helps other people with disabilities who need to go through there. So, at the doctors, well, we talked about that already. And if there's a particular clinic that has steps, ask them please to put in a ramp. And they have to do it. They have to comply with the ADA. Speaking up when someone talks to your caregiver. This happens to me. However, it changes when I'm in neurology. When I'm in neurology, they only speak to me. They will not speak to my caregiver or to our nurses with me. They'll only speak to me because they know I can. So that's a different switch. So I have to be ready to listen well and answer to the best of my ability. Refusing help you don't need. And sometimes I just roll my eyes when someone quickly does something for me, and it's like, I didn't need that, but thank you. So sometimes people are just trying to be nice. They're trying to be kind. But you can also sit down and have a chat with that person about, the help they thought you needed. I had a person here in my house who thought I needed all this help. And she would say it out loud at the table, at the dinner table. And so I was just patient, took a deep breath, and later I met with her and I said, hey, I feel like it's not fair. And you have to start with I feel like it's not fair when you blurt out these things because they're not all true. These are my conditions, and these are the things that I can do, and I don't need all of this help. There's only a few things that I need assistance with. So to say, that I'm gravely ill and that I need all this support. No, it's not true. It might feel like it to you, but it's not true in my case. So then we had a heart-to-heart talk, and we cleared it up. And so she hasn't spoken like that again at the table. So that's helpful. All right. So now we're going to make a switch here. So hold on to your hat and be ready with your pencil, your pen. Know your rights. Know the ADA. When I got here, there was disregard for the ADA left and right. And I said, whoa. So there was disregard of the ADA left and right. And I had to remind them. I had to remind the nurses, come on, knock it off. So read your, the ADA is a law. So it is complicated to read, but it is there for you to become more knowledgeable. And look up the section that you need, like a doctor's office or an apartment that you're renting, a rental unit. And it'll be there. If you go to the ADA webpage, you can do a search and find the section you need to read up on. Accessibility, and now I'm going to go outside of our country because I've been talking about the United States, which we have the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, right? We all know that one. But there are people outside of our country which uses Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, the AODA, which belongs to Canada, and the Equality Act, which belongs to the UK. So I'm encouraging those in Canada to look up their AODA and become familiar with it in areas that you don't have to learn the whole thing. I'm not saying learn the whole ADA, no. And you don't have to learn the whole AODA or the Equalities Act because those are big laws and a lot of pages. But look for the sections that you would need and that would be helpful. And if you need somebody to assist you with the understanding of it, then you need to do that. But it's important for you to know your rights. Because if you advocate for yourself, you got to know what you're talking about, right? Yeah. So equal access to public spaces, transportation, reasonable accommodations in workplace and schools, freedom from discrimination in housing and services. So reasonable accommodations means basically that it shouldn't be like millions of dollars to accommodate you in something, that it would cost some dollars to put in a ramp or it would cost some dollars to put in a button to automate a door for you to get through, that at school that they would give you the shortest route. And if there's problems with these routes, that, a ramp or an elevator be placed in that area. Freedom from discrimination in housing, rental units that we know. And it's important to know what you can request and what is way too much. When it's way, way, way too much, then it's not possible. So that's what they mean by reasonable accommodations. Not something that's over the head expensive, but something that is reasonable to request. To communicate clearly and confidently, calmly, that you know what you're talking about. You can refer back to the ADA if you need to, or to the AODA or Equality Act. Use I statements because that's less offensive. I need a ramp to access this building, or I need to be able to access this counter when I'm checking out of the store. Uh, be specific about what you need. I need some help in the store. What kind of help? Well, there's a big hole in the entrance. Okay, so you need that hole to be fixed for you to be able to get in safely. Yes. Okay, so you need to be able to say it. There's a hole in front of the store which causes trouble for me to get in. Can we fix it? So practice staying calm and focused, even if the response is frustrating. Staying calm is really important. You know, advocates sometimes get really huffy and you need to fix this now, and by next month, you know, or I'm reporting you. Then you cause a negative environment, and you don't want that. If you request for that hole to be repaired in front of an XYZ store, and the person says, oh, I don't know about that, I don't have anything to do with that, then you can ask to speak to the manager. And the manager has to have some kind of answer, like, I'll check with the administration, I'll get back to you, and you can give them on purpose your phone number or your email so that the manager can get back to you. You know, give them the tools that they need also to communicate with you, to follow up, participate in that problem solving. The other day, where was it? Trying to think here. It's on the tip of my tongue. But I know there was something I requested and it got fixed, but it'll pop up in my mind. All right. Document everything. So when you get home, you want to document that conversation that you had with the manager or with, oh, I know what it was. I was at the hospital at a specific clinic, and the traffic situation was absolutely horrible. And the county van dropped me off, but just to get across that walkway was awful. And so the driver got out and she said, no, I'm going to walk you across because there's too much traffic going on here and I don't want you to get hurt. So she got out of the van and walked me across. And I thought, this is crazy. There's a walkway with lines, a zebra walk crossing, and I couldn't get across. There was no way. There was just so many cars and so many beepings, and it was awful. So I called the administration. I got sent to different departments, but I just waited, to get to the right person. And I finally got to the security that's in charge of traffic on campus. So I said, look, I'm a patient at such and such a clinic, and it's getting so difficult for me in my wheelchair to cross to the other side. And there's a crosswalk, but the cars don't respect it. And there was also a car parked in the middle of the crosswalk. What is going on? So I said, there's going to be an accident there. It's going to be serious, and we need to prevent that. Said we, because I wanted to participate in that correction of the crazy traffic there. And I spoke to the people who park their cars for free, and they say, oh, I don't have anything to do with that. It's like, so, I'm hoping it got better. I'll be going to the clinic soon. So if it still hasn't been fixed, like with good signage, no parking in the crosswalk, those kind of things, no stopping in the crosswalk, something that would help us be safer. So that's what it was. So I have to follow up with that. So that's part of my advocacy at this particular clinic. So I remember the conversation. I remember the phone calls. I remember the departments. I spoke to like four different people. Sometimes it's difficult in a big administration, and you have to be patient. So take photos, and I'll probably take photos next time if the traffic is so awful. I'm taking photos or videos of inaccessible areas. Save emails and write follow-ups if requests are ignored, and that's possible. I might have to send an email on top of my phone call. So it takes some work to do advocacy, and this is a big hospital with many clinics, and the traffic in this particular clinic is awful. So dangerous. So this is one of the things with advocacy. If you get into it, you got to be patient with all the steps. Use support networks. So if I can't get through to all these departments to get this fixed, I might have to go to a social worker to walk with me, a social worker at the hospital or at the clinic to get this corrected. Because she's an internal person, she's an inside person who has a stronger voice than I do. So join or form a disability advocacy group. So I just might do that. Partner with organizations like the Center for Independent Living or disability right groups in your area, or you can start a group. Amplify your voice by working with allies, friends, or coworkers. So that's really important. Educate others. So this is a big piece of accessibility, is education, because people don't see it. People who are not in wheelchairs, people who don't have disabilities, it goes right over their head because they're not thinking about that. They're just going about their business, and they don't think about us. So that happens a lot. So education has to happen. Explain how inaccessible affects daily life. Inaccessibility. Suggest solutions. So I suggested solutions when I made this call to the hospital, and I had to talk to all these people. I said, for God's sake, can we put at least a sign there that says no parking in the crosswalk? So at least I have a space to cross safely. So that's one of the things I did, because by the time the phone call was up, I was exhausted. Portable ramps, automatic doors, flexible work hours, and that we have all that. It's just people are blocking my way to get over to the other side. Share your story on social media, blogs, or through public speaking. So if this happens that I can't get through to them and they don't correct this, I just might go to one of the channels, one of the TV stations, and talk to them and say, it's a nightmare. And for a wheelchair user, it's insane. So that might happen. Just wait for it. Know how to escalate. So I'm doing it in steps. I'm going to the proper people. I'm being calm. I am expressing my frustration as a wheelchair user. I'm explaining who I am and why it's frustrating to me. So file formal complaints. So that'll be my next step, to write a letter. Involve the media when systemic issues persist. So only if it persists. So I want to go through all the channels first and make sure that, my complaint has been filed. And then if they ignore it, then I go to this, media like Channel 4, and then consider legal action. Once it goes on a channel, then lawyers like to pick those things up. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lawyer called me. So we'll see how it goes. practice self-care. So this is kind of stressful at times. If you jump into something like this, it requires patience. It requires being at peace with yourself, knowing that you're doing good, and it'll help others. You know, set boundaries and take breaks. So I might have to take a break from this and get back to them because, you know, celebrate small wins. If someone calls me and says, Lisa, we have heard your complaint. We know you're a patient there. Thank you so much for informing us of the situation. We're going to work on it. We have to make the signage. So, you know, the solution might not happen until about 4 weeks from now. So, you know, give me a timeline. Give me something. So maybe it's not fixed at that moment, but at least they say, well, maybe a month. So I can say, well, let's follow up in 4 weeks, you know, so you don't want to let them off the hook. Seek therapy or peer support. It's not that bad yet. So I don't need the counseling yet. So where does advocacy need to happen? And that could be at your favorite restaurant. There's your favorite restaurant and it's inaccessible to you. That's a place where you want to talk to the manager and see what can be done. Job interviews without accommodations. School lacks wheelchair ramps. Duh. Big violation. Disrespectful language or behavior from either staff or people at a store or at a hospital, at a clinic. Speak to the manager, explain ADA laws, leave a review, request them ahead of time. And this is important. There was one clinic that I was going to, and when the doctor was examining me, I'd have to call ahead of time and request a special room with a table that would lower so I could get on it on my own. So I would have to request that. Contact administration involved in disability services or the board. So that's kind of what I'm doing with the hospital right now. Educate politely or call it out assertively. So assertively means I really want some deadlines for this. That would be the professional thing to do. So I'm going to expect that you call me in about a week to see if you've made a move on this. So that's assertive in a calm way, in a polite way, in a professional way. So you always have to remain professional. So I'm hoping this helps in terms of advocacy. If you ever need to advocate for something, that, you know, you can take a look at this list. Know your rights, communicate clearly and confidently, document everything, use support networks, educate others, know how to escalate. Be kind at first, be firm next. Practice self-care and common scenarios. So I'm hoping all of this helps so that self-advocacy is not foreign to you. And if it is a little bit, then, you know, you might have to practice a little bit so you can start going into it little by little for speaking up for yourself or speaking up for yourself in a big situation, or if you feel like you need some support and some help in advocating for yourself and others, you can ask for help for someone to assist you in advocating. So it's all of that and some of that. So my hope is that this video is helpful in terms of anything and everything that has to do with self-advocacy. If you got to the end of this video, congratulations. That was a long video, but I'm hoping that there are nuggets of wisdom in there that's going to help you get charged or have the tools that you need to advocate for something important in your life. So give us feedback of what you thought of the video, and that'll be helpful. But feel free to give us a like, to subscribe for other videos that might come up. They will come up, and I will be your host in the next one. Feel free to look at the next video. I think I might have something more about advocacy, and see if there are other tips there that will be helpful. Take care.